Why are cruise ships getting way bigger every single year? Royal Caribbean Star of the Seas is out in 2025, and that launches its second Icon class cruise ship, which can handle over 7,000 passengers. When you combine that with the crew members on board, that's nearly 10,000 people if the ship is totally sold out with every single bed. And that fact is astounding. But beyond that, it also makes people question, why are cruise ships just getting bigger, and why are supersized ships certainly the norm right now? I started cruising right at the dawn of the megaship generation. Back then, they were still really big ships, and they've only gotten bigger since then. We've seen the Oasis class come online, and now the Icon class, and I am certain we'll see even bigger ships in the future. Royal Caribbean has led the way with these mega ships, but the competition is catching up. MSC has launched some of its biggest ships like World America, Carnival Cruise Line with its Excel class, and even Norwegian is getting in on the really big ship market. There are a number of reasons why cruise ships have only been getting bigger over the years, starting with the economy of scale. Because one aspect of making money is, of course, cost control, and economies of scale make bigger cruise ships more profitable. Whether 1,000 or 5,000 passengers are on board, there are common expenses, such as wages for the captain, cruise director, chief engineer, and other staff that have to be paid. But spreading these costs out over more passengers enhances profitability for the cruise line. Essentially, larger ships allow a cruise line to reduce the number of crew per passenger, leading to reduced wage expenses and, of course, increased profits. The cruise industry has basically figured out that having a cruise ship that's over, say, $1 billion is proving to be more cost effective to build one large ship rather than two smaller ones. The second reason is, well, competition. As I mentioned, the other lines are getting in on it, and it just breeds more and bigger ships as they try to outdo each other. Certainly, there is a trend among the mainstream lines to build bigger ships because it gets a lot of attention. When you can call yourself the biggest cruise ship in the world, like Icon of the Seas and Star of the Seas can, it's gonna get a lot of headlines. Even if you don't have the biggest ship in the world, having bigger ships, its biggest ship yet, something along those lines, really tends to attract passengers with a wider array of amenities and experiences on board. Again, the bigger your ship, the more space you have to pack in the "I can't believe they put it on a cruise ship" kind of things. A mega ship like Oasis or Icon class ships have so much to do, more than you could possibly do in a week. They have shows in multiple theaters, a variety of specialty and included restaurants, recreational activities, water parks, zip lines, ice skating rinks, and lots more to do. I mean, there's the basic stuff like trivia, but then there's also the Flowrider Surf Simulator, or the Skydiving Simulator, or even the Crown's Edge. And all of these things are meant to really draw your attention and compel you to think, I gotta take my family on board. The other part of the strategy truly is a shift in passenger expectations. Vacationers today are looking for more than just getting from point A to point B. They want innovative onboard experiences, wide range of dining choices, exciting entertainment, and memory-making opportunities. When you talk about everything you can do on a cruise ship, really at the heart of it, you're talking about opportunities to take time to spend with your family. Do those things that take photos and videos and share them with friends back home, that humble brag where you're saying, look what we did on vacation. And that really is what a lot of people look for in a cruise ship. That isn't to say some people don't want to cruise on a smaller ship, but when you're talking about these mega ships, there is a lot of demand from passengers who want to have these amazing experiences, things you can only do on a cruise, or things that you couldn't believe you can do on a cruise. In either case, it attracts a lot of eyeballs. Another really compelling reason for the cruise lines is not just competitive advantage among other lines, but also among land vacations. Royal Caribbean has said that they don't really view their competition as Carnival, Norwegian, or Virgin Voyages. They think their competition is Walt Disney World, Las Vegas, Universal Studios, because that is where the vacation market truly is. Cruising is still very much a very small market, whereas the land vacation, especially the family land vacation market, is a $1 trillion industry, and Royal Caribbean wants in on it. When you build large ships with more amenities, it really can be a significant marketing tool because it allows Royal Caribbean to stand out from the competition and attract attention. Remember, cruise ships, generally speaking, have a better value proposition than a land vacation. Now, it's one thing for you to say that. It's another for you to say that and demonstrate you also have really compelling things to do for families on board. And that's why Royal Caribbean, always a historically family cruise line to begin with, is like tripling down on the family cruise market. They're designing ships like Icon of the Seas, Star of the Seas, Legend of the Seas, in order to have more for families to do on board so that they can attract and lure away folks that might have otherwise considered a Disney World trip or just a trip to the beach somewhere. This serves a secondary purpose also because hopefully those people will try Royal Caribbean, fall in love with it like all of us do, and then cruise again. And building that loyalty in their customer base is how you grow your company. The cruise industry says more than 37 million passengers are expected to take a cruise in 2025. That's a big number, but it's really not that big of a number in the grand scheme of, say, the population of the United States, Europe, or really anywhere else. So there's a lot of folks who have never tried a cruise. So by building these mega ships that attract people that have never gone on a cruise but make them think, that's an interesting idea, they not only sell out the ship at least once, but they're also building up loyal customers who are going to be cruising for many years to come. Now, if you're wondering, okay, man, I understand now why they're building these big ships, but it must feel super crowded and uncomfortable and just not a great experience on board these giant mega ships with, 5, 6, 7,000 passengers on board. And you might think that unless you've actually been on these ships, because Royal Caribbean recognizes they can't just shove people onto a cruise ship and think they're going to have an automatically great time. They understand from their customer feedback that if they feel like it's overwhelming, they're not going to want to cruise again. And Royal Caribbean is really big on its internal research. I've spent a lot of time at Royal Caribbean headquarters talking with various people among the executive team, and they told me repeatedly how much effort and emphasis they put on their own customer research. And to that point, when you go on a ship like Icon of the Seas or Star of the Seas and you look around the ship, one thing you'll notice is that it's really not as crowded as you might think. In fact, I was really surprised the first time I ever stepped foot on Icon of the Seas how uncrowded this kind of a giant ship can feel. Royal Caribbean knows from a guest perspective, they want to have a high level of customer satisfaction. In order to get that, you can't have a ship that quote unquote feels crowded. Now, of course, in this video, you're seeing video of walking through one of these ships, and you'll notice that it really doesn't feel that crowded here, but when you actually get on board, it's a completely different experience, and I feel like it even makes it much more apparent than you can ever perceive here in a video. But the bottom line is, Royal Caribbean is masterful with crowd distribution. They program their activities so that there's different things happening throughout the day to draw people away. They'll have different shows on board, different activities, different dining venues open, so that way people are constantly being pulled in different directions. The idea is not to have everybody doing the same thing at the same time. They want distribution. They want people around the ship spread out, and that helps create a much better and less crowded cruise experience overall. For new cruisers, it's really hard to convey just how big these ships are until you see them in person. Oftentimes I talk to new cruisers who, once they get on board the ship, realize, holy smokes, this is way bigger than I expected, because the scale of it is just simply hard to fathom based on purely a photo or a video. I don't want to make it seem like a Royal Caribbean cruise ship feels like a private yacht. It doesn't, but it is significantly better at distributing people around the ship, and that's one of the big reasons why Royal Caribbean, and other lines as well, have felt compelled to continue to build these bigger ships, because they've kind of figured out this whole crowd flow thing to help mitigate any sense of crowding, or at least maximize spreading out people around the ship. I fully expect that over the next decade or two, we will see ships even bigger than the Icon class, because the reality is the economy of scale, the marketing aspects of it, and customer demand really wants to see these ships push limits and go beyond what we expect. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on big ships. And up next, I've got to look at how one of the biggest cruise ships in the world compares to Titanic, because I know what you were thinking this entire video. How much bigger are cruise ships to Titanic? Check out our next video. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.